Hi everybody, Joshua Angeli here with another episode for 11th Hour Hero, this podcast that we've been doing. I am here with my brother Matthew,
What's up, guys?
and we have a pretty big announcement, or at least I have a pretty big announcement this week. So I've kind of like alluded to this over the past couple episodes of like trying to like apply and try to do this thing with 11th Hour Hero. So I'm like pretty proud to announce that uh, I'm taking 11th Hour Hero to DreamHack Atlanta 2025. So that's going to be over the Halloween weekend, October 31st to I think November 2nd. I'll have to like double confirm those dates, but it should be like a Thursday through Sunday here at the Georgia World Congress Center, which is like for us, we live pretty close by over there, so
Yeah,
it's like super convenient to showcase the game over there. But yeah, DreamHack Atlanta, it's a huge convention. So they have like people playing Counter Strike. Let's see other games like
COD Mobile. We saw
COD.
that. That was funny to watch.
Yeah,
People
COD
on a
Mobile.
stage, but like on their phones.
Let's see. I think they had
Uh,
Brawl Stars or something like that, or Brawl Holla or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. There's
Yeah,
there's tons of games basically.
yeah, a lot of competitive games.
Yeah,
They had Melee and they have Super Smash Brothers Ultimate there too. I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
and then a bunch of other like fighting games as well.
hmm
But yeah, so essentially, I mean, it's like hundreds of thousands of people, or maybe 100,000 people. I don't know, but it's a lot of
Yeah,
people going to this convention, and it's an honor to get accepted into this thing. When I originally decided to quit my job to do 11th Hour Hero, one of my goals was, or at least when I did that, my bet was that like I worked on a maritime arena for like years, like 5, 6 years, kind of thing, right?
hmm
Like learning the ropes from Unity. Went from a complete novice to, I'd say like I'm still like not like an expert in Unity at this point, but I definitely know, like, if I can think of it, I can usually figure out if it's feasible, and if it's feasible, then I can definitely do it and build
yeah,
it and stuff. So when I quit my job, I was like, I already had like a very small prototype of 11th Hour Hero, but it didn't have. It just only had the concept of the procedural generated level. I had like some things about like being able to like play on PC and VR. I had a very basic like boss thing, but it wasn't like very like fleshed out kind of thing, right? There weren't any enemies and stuff, but it was just all things where I'm like, okay, like the idea is there, and I know I can build out what I want. So the big bet this year was, if I quit my job, I can spend, at least 40 hours a week, like working on this thing, and I can finish this thing in a year or something like that. Although right now I'm like, okay, like like that. The timelines are always like a little wishy washy kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
but getting a trailer together, getting this game to where it is now, and getting it to apply to DreamHack when I had to apply to that thing like in August. So really, it's only just 6 months really from the or like 7 months from the beginning of this year, right?
hmm
And so that is still like at least technically like just a little bit than half of the timeline that I had kind of thing, right?
yeah,
So being able to just quit my job, work on this thing, and get it to and get a applied and accepted to DreamHack is a huge validation, I think, on my part, kind of thing, right? Or
yeah,
at least the bet that I've made that I'm actually achieving. I'm getting to the places that I want to go with this game. So that with that said, you know, I think DreamHack Atlanta is going to be really great because I feel like recently I've been kind of in like a limbo of like, okay, like this game can be good, but I've only played it with a few people kind of thing. Like they like it, but it's still like it still has a ways to go to make it where it's going to be like, where people want to play it like more and more kind of thing, right? But it's also like I've been struggling with trying to find like a good audience for this game as well, and so I think DreamHack Atlanta is going to be a really good opportunity to just get some like very definite answers on like who will want to play this game, who's going to like really enjoy it,
Hmm.
and who's going to like actually just come along with the journey essentially, right? Of
Yeah.
like because at some point I do need like a community. I want to like part of the reason why I stream is so that way I can start building up that community and actually build this game with with a bunch of people, right?
Hmm.
And I feel like in some ways, like that hasn't really worked out as much as I wanted it to. But that's just like slow, slow start, maybe slow beginning. Like it all snowballs. So I'm just saying
Yeah.
that DreamHack Atlanta is going to be a good snowball building movement.
Yeah.
Or if it's not, then then I still just have an answer, and then I can do something else or something like that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah. But I'm very proud. I'm very happy, and so I'll
Cheers.
cheers to that.
Yeah, I think what DreamHack represents is a very good opportunity for you, to be able to kind of show your game publicly. Like how it's going to work basically is that it's a big convention. You're going to have a booth, right? Um, you're going to be. Are you going to be in the indie developer section? Is it
Yeah.
going to be okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're going to be in the
It's all going to
indie.
be in the indie playground
Yeah,
area.
the indie playground area. So basically, it's just like a bunch of booths next to each other, and they're all indie developers, right? Basically trying to show off their game. Just let any passerby can like play, kind of give feedback, or whatever, just kind of like drum a pipe and stuff like that. And so, I think that's going to be a good time for you can get really easy access to just anyone that wants to walk by. They're at a gaming convention, like
Yeah.
people are gonna bite. They're gonna be people that are gonna play your game, and it's people from it can be a good amount of backgrounds too, because some people are there, their kids, they brought their kids to it because their kids really want to go, so
Yeah.
maybe the parents aren't even super like gamer heavy, but they're like, oh well, I'll try this out, or sometimes they're just like, oh yeah, they'll let the kid try it and
Hmm.
see what happens. There's also publishers and stuff like that. I know you've made some connections in the past in terms of like either meeting other game developers that have gone on to like actually really rise in the ranks and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
had pretty big successes, and then other publishers that are always like looking for essentially talent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Talent and also good ideas,
Yeah.
right?
Good ideas, or even just a good project, right? Like this
Yeah.
something where they see something good, and they're like, okay, yeah, this is something where like they can help propel it, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
And so yeah, so I mean I think with this it's like it's just a good opportunity, and I think it's coming in at a good time because like you said, you quit your job, to start working on this at the beginning of the year.
Hmm.
You kind of hit that dreaded like halfway mark where now you're like, well, am I halfway to where I want to be,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And obviously like the sky is the limit for this,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like hard to measure a halfway point because as you said, games and stuff like this, it's word of mouth. It's kind of snowbally effect.
Yeah.
Also, it's like, as you're developing and making the game, it's like, there's only so much like hype and community you can kind of build when the game is like in a very, very early alpha stage,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? But now it is at a point where it's like, okay, you've actually like have a game now.
Yeah.
And I think it's a game that we feel very confident, like you should
Yeah.
feel very confident in showing to other people because I think it kind of like actually has some stuff now,
Yeah.
like some good mechanics, some good like a loop and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a good opportunity for like, okay, well maybe this is kind of like the launching point. Hopefully,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and the next point is that we've actually been to DreamHack Atlanta with your previous game, Maritime
Yeah. Yeah.
Arena, right? So we should talk a little bit about that. But this isn't our first rodeo
Hmm.
at DreamHack specifically, but also you've shown a Maritime Arena at it was like Southern Frank Gaming. There's a couple
MomoCon,
MomoCon,
Future
like
X
I think at
Live.
least two different
Yeah,
DreamHacks
two
Atlantas.
dream hacks,
Um,
2018 and 2019.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so so you've been to like a handful of conventions at this point.
Yeah.
So you kind of like know the deal. You're not kind of like walking into completely unknown waters,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so we definitely got a game plan and and kind of be
Yeah.
ready to try to like get this to be like a launching point. But yeah, like let's talk about last time we were at DreamHack Atlanta. It was 2019, which feels like a very long time ago
Yeah. Yeah.
with the Maritime Arena.
Yeah, and so it was crazy because 2019, a Maritime Arena is a VR game, just straight up arcade shooter. a wave shooter where enemies pop up and you slice them down or shoot them up just as quickly as possible. You have the power of time on your hands. So you can slow down time to give yourself like either like a little bit
Yeah.
of a breather, dodge around, or like reload kind of thing. Right, just
Hmm.
position yourself a little bit differently kind of thing. Right. So kind of like think like Space Pirate Trainer, but just that you can move like also just a lot more in the arena itself.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, 2019 was a very different world because obviously that was before the pandemic. So it was, but that's not the only reason why the world was actually very different. VR has actually grown, like both tech wise and in community, than 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, I think the Crest One had just come out for DreamHack. So
Hmm.
yeah, like cool story is that in Maritime Arena, our booth was right next door to Cubism's booth. And if
Yeah.
you haven't played Cubism before, it's a game where you're trying to like combine blocks together to create this like new shape kind of thing, right? It's like a puzzle game that you can play in
Hmm.
VR and in mixed reality.
Yeah.
And so, what was cool about Cubism was I saw their game, or at least a screenshot or like a GIF of it on Reddit before the game came out. Like they were just like, "Hey, we're been," Thomas was like, "Yeah, I'm working on this cool game," kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? And it looks very clean. It's a very simple, but it's beautiful and how simple it is, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, of
And
course.
yeah, you got that nice piano music going on in the background, right? And so when I got accepted into DreamHack 2019 with my game, and I looked at the who was going to be next to me on the booth was Cubism. I like just like fell to my knees. I was dreadful, absolutely just dreading it because I'm just like shit. Like, I don't think my game is like nearly as good as
Hmm.
Cubism kind of thing. And like, but what was crazy was that Cubism had only had gifts and stuff. Like they didn't have they didn't release the game until after that convention, and not only that, but I was just looping like they had a version to play that game on the Quest One kind of thing at this
Hmm.
convention. So that was like the very first year that all these like mobile VR headsets came out, where people could actually just like they didn't have to plug in anything into their computers and stuff.
Yeah.
I think so. Basically, I think that's going to be the biggest difference between DreamHack 2019 and DreamHack 2025 is the fact that, yeah, like I actually don't need to bring so many wires. I don't need to bring cameras on the opposite sides of the booth, kind of thing. Right?
Yeah. We
I
had a
can,
whole setup for that.
yeah,
I
yeah. It's
remember.
like I just have to plop somebody into like one mobile headset kind of thing, right? And then it's also multiplayer, so I probably won't have two VR headsets, but I could have like multiple like computer stations
Yeah.
kind of
They could
thing.
also be a
Where
mouse and keyboard player and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah, like that's like I mean, if we just talk about like how different the world is between 2019 and 2025, I
Yeah.
think that's like one of the bigger ones. Is just the fact that you actually just don't need a PC to play VR anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then with that said, like that has actually still been. It's surprising how more powerful the Quest 3 is from the Quest 1. I'm still like trying to figure out how to make the game like one well on that thing.
Yeah.
The thing is like I could definitely make it one well. It's like how much do I want to sacrifice on the visual fidelity in order to make it one well kind of
Hmm.
thing, right? So like that is a different problem than the Quest 1 where it was just like, okay, how do you just make this thing how do you make the game just run on that thing, period?
Yeah.
Which was a challenge, which I actually did get that working on for Maritime Arena, actually. Uh, yeah, it's so yeah, yeah. But anyway, either way, but yeah, going back to just DreamHack and stuff. One thing that I've learned from 2018 and 2019 was that these conventions, like you're there to show off your game, right, and
Hmm.
to introduce it to people, but that's like not really like it's not actually like a good place to like sell your game.
Hmm.
Like I think especially in 2018 2019 with my VR game, like I didn't have to like I had to have to sell people on the game, but then also on the headset, and then also on the computer probably at that point too.
Yeah.
And so I guess in some ways going into this thing, I like I get like if I was to sell this game at this convention, like it'd be like a I think I could safely assume that a good chunk of people actually have VR headsets now, kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
And even if
And
they
there
don't,
is a mouse and keyboard version too.
yeah,
That
yeah,
is like a
that's
big
also true. There's
difference
a
too.
mouse and keyboard, so it's like, okay, you don't even need a VR headset. You can just play it on like a regular computer kind of thing.
Yeah.
If it runs on a VR headset, it's definitely gonna run on basically most computers, really, at that point.
Hmm.
But even with all that, I feel like the better use cases for these conventions is really to kind of like build up that community, kind of build up that, like, okay, like, yeah, you're going to be hearing more from this game and more from us kind of thing in the future kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, asking for money there or then kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely going to be a, like, yeah, like, if you're interested in this kind of thing, right? Like, use, like, you know, like, figure out ways to, like, keep in touch kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
No, I think it's absolutely like a opportunity to pitch your game essentially, and by having this booth at DreamHack, you're getting access to like just like people in a much easier way
Mm,
than you going out, because like yeah, you've at this point like you've told a lot of your friends and colleagues and family, right?
yeah,
And that only like can multiply so much, right? Until it kind of whatever, it kind of naturally hits its like point where it's like, okay, yeah, like you've got most of what you can from that group, right? And then but now this is just gonna be like completely like random people, basically, right? And
yeah,
it's not even completely like I'm talking about like the people walking by are like yeah, somewhat like random people,
yeah,
but I think it's also a good way to network with other people
yeah, yeah.
like that are just in the gaming community and stuff like that. I mean, you've had a conversation with what is it, like a publisher or publicist or one of those things.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I've
And
I met Click Games before they were Click Games
yeah,
back in 2018 and 2019.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
And I've been in contact with them too, like a little bit over this year kind of thing.
yeah.
But I've still just been kind of like on the grind on my own stuff kind of
Hmm.
thing. But it'll be interesting to see like like what kind of drums up from this go around kind of thing
Yeah,
at DreamHack.
yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting, and I think I helped you out 5 years ago at the booth and stuff like that, and so I think we just have a little bit more experience doing it. I think last time I feel like when we did it, we were trying to figure out like feedback for the game, and I still think that's important. But I
Mm-hmm.
think we've done a little bit more of like we've done some play testing and stuff like that. We've thought really hard about basically what people want. So this will be a good section for another round of feedback. But I
Yeah,
also think it'll be I think we should be a little bit more of like forward and like we were pitching this game, but also you as a developer, like this is your second game. You're
yeah,
talking earlier about how you're not like an expert in Unity,
yeah,
right? And it's always hard to. I feel like it's always hard to proclaim yourself as like an expert,
yeah, yeah,
unless you're like in a job interview. You need
yeah,
to like say that,
yeah,
right? To say
yeah,
that, right? But like, I think you're being a little bit modest
yeah,
because you were saying like, well, if I think of something, I feel like I can build it. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe you need to look up stuff, do some stuff, like you just can't do it off the rip. But
mm,
I mean, you've made a full game before, right? And now you're on your second game.
yeah,
And I think in Maritime Arena, the things that I think the mechanics were like a very strong part of it for
yeah,
sure. And I think if anything, it was just like the nature of the game being just kind of like a wave shooter, kind of like an arcade game. It's like
yeah,
yeah, well, arcade games can only be what I mean, like there's gonna be like not really like story behind it. It's just kind of like about mechanics, right? So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think you like did that, and that was really good. I think this game is also kind of very mechanics
yeah,
focused too,
yeah,
but a little bit more open in terms of like okay, well, you can build out a story. I think there's space for that,
yeah,
and also there is gonna be more variety and replayability, because I know the last thing was like an arcade shooter, but I think it was a it never really made it to the point where it was like super replayable, I
yeah, yeah.
think, but I think this game has already
Like, you're gonna have to
has
like,
more replayability than your last game,
yeah.
and it's, not
The
even
fact
like
that you can like play this
fully
game
finished.
and like every single time you play, there's something new. At least right now, it's just like the layouts of the game like is different, right?
Yeah.
But like that really like ties into like the love of exploration.
Yeah.
And so there's also plenty of like new systems that I want to build in. So like there's power up abilities. like making sure that people can actually like craft their own power ups by just basically combining like a few of them together, kind of thing, right, to create like a new one.
Mhm.
So I think there's, and then with it being multiplayer, you can also then like start like working on like the team composition, right? Like who's going
Mhm.
to be like the tank versus who's going to be like, like a speed guy, like somebody that can move around, but maybe like, you know, may have some deficits like in elsewhere kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Basically it's a, trying to figure out, okay, like not only are you trying to build up your own strengths, but how do you build up strengths like team wise, so that way you all can basically cover your own bases slash also like cover other people's bases as
Yeah.
you challenge this boss kind of thing. So all of that makes it where like I think there's just inherently there should be replayability on that
Yeah.
side. But that's it. I mean, I still haven't put in the that whole power up upgrade system in, and there's still like not that many power ups in the game right now.
Yeah.
So but all that is stuff there, like that can be done. I think it can be done like fairly quickly, and it's also like that's a thing where like that's a perfect example of like, yeah, I want to build this with a community. I want to figure out what people find exciting in games and actually just include that into this game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good idea. Well, I think so. Yeah. I mean, we're gonna be talking about DreamHack basically probably for the next couple episodes until we do it. Then probably the episode after.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
But
yeah, it's already 20 minutes in.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, whoops.
To pivot off of that though, so do you want to just give an update before we leave about any the things you've been working on in the game this week?
Yeah, so I've been working on a couple more VR stuff. So
Mhm.
I've been adding in some animations to some of the guns and how they
Okay.
like. So now like, there's that one gun that like blinds you whenever you shoot, and now that does like a whole little spinny thing, right?
Yeah.
And so the inspiration for some adding in some of the animations is that I was playing like this other VR game called the Light Brigade, and I really liked how like handling those guns and like with two hands and stuff, I thought was like really interesting. It's just
Mhm.
like how they felt like pretty weighty and stuff. And so I was like, today I was just been spending all day just like trying to figure out how to like replicate that feeling, and I don't think I got there.
Okay.
So, well, I could get pretty close. I think the problem is that just getting slightly into the weeds of it is just like it feels good whenever you're like standing still and moving the guns in your hands, but when you start like moving around in the world kind of thing, everything starts to feel like a little bit jittery kind of thing. So I think there's
Okay.
like a couple of adjustments I can make to kind of just circle around that problem kind of thing, right?
Okay.
But I think ultimately, yeah, like this is just a like trying to like make sure that VR players like feel like that they are like immersed in the game and stuff like that. I think there a lot of VR games are significantly better now than they were like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and so now they're like which also means that the expectations for games is also like significantly higher than was. So like I feel like a Maritime Arena, like I think I think it did have its day and its light kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
Back then, but I don't think like it's like exactly like, aged like it's still fun to play, right? But yeah, there's just like so many games that have like the gun handling like significantly better.
Yeah.
I'm not even trying to match like their fidelity, but I'm just trying to make it where it still feels like it's rady, it still feels unique, and it still feels like something where if you're playing with a PC player, the PC player is gonna feel jealous
Yeah.
because they're like, shit, like this looks so much cooler. like,
You're just so much more like into it, right?
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think your game now, like, I think it's got a lot of good things going for it. I think one thing that obviously like is gonna it's like hard to compare, or it's just gonna be like less than other games. It doesn't have that finish on it, doesn't have that like shine on
yeah,
it, and that is obviously the last thing you're trying to do, right? But it's
yeah,
also there's also so much to do.
yeah.
So I think that's just kind of always going to be like a hard thing to compare with your game, as opposed to maybe other people that have bigger teams essentially and can maybe like get to that point earlier, or even just have someone that's like much more dedicated to like really putting like a polish on a
Mhm.
game, that's just something for you that is going to be like, you're going to have to feel really good about every other part of the game, which is like, as we do this, it's like, yeah, you've been working on this for 8 months, and you still feel like there's a lot to do, and I think
Yeah.
there is, but there's also like, you're also further along than you think. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of the nature of that kind of issue. But I think it's all about having fun with the game, and I think
Yeah.
people will have fun at the convention, and I think anyone that you know like you're trying to convince of the game, I think we'll see, like, it doesn't,
Yeah.
like, to a certain extent, the polish doesn't matter if the game isn't good. Like, it's got to have the meat and bones, and I think
Yeah.
that's something you've spent a lot of time on. I think that is, you've always had good ideas relating to all that and good execution. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I think like yeah, like I'll keep everybody posted on like the on the things I'm doing. Like so now this podcast I think will be great because it's like a now it's kind of like the road to DreamHack
Hmm.
2025, right? So it
Yeah, for this
is
next two
yeah,
months.
it is September 12th kind of thing, right? Borderlands 4 comes out today,
Oh
technically kind
yeah.
of thing. So that's like another cool game that'll be like uh yeah, we'll see like that it's a like a looter shooter game kind of thing, right? I think this game kind of like it's a little bit inspired off of like 11th Hour Heroes, a little bit inspired off of Borderlands when it comes to like the style and even some like the looting stuff, even if there's
Well,
not a lot of
just
loot. But
the variety of options, right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, their thing is all about, there are millions of guns, right? And I
yeah,
think with you, you're not trying to do
I
millions
got
of guns, but
five,
you're
I
trying to
got
do,
five, no, it's
well, you're trying
six
to
guns
do,
actually, yeah, six
the
guns,
goal is millions of combinations of, build spec, guns, like, uh, like,
yeah,
whatever. Yeah, environment. That is the one thing that is
yeah,
the actual really big difference between you and Borderlands.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like basically yeah, now like there's some laser traps are in the game too now, so
Hmm.
like laser beams are going to shoot at you like from like one side of the room to the other, and there's a couple like spinning ones as well kind of things, so you got to dodge those because those will just like light you up like
Yeah.
almost immediately. It's just like
Nice.
super easy way to die from them kind of thing. And so yeah, like Road to DreamHack 2025 starts now, September 12th. So I got about like 2 months, like
Month and a half. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, basically, to get there and stuff. And like that's not even counting for, so there's a bunch of features, and then there's a bunch of like, quality of life enhancements, especially since like, I had the game like on this guy, and I took that to GDC,
Hmm.
right? And so many people are just complaining about like how that they can't adjust like any of the controls. Like some people kind of like it where like I feel like aim down like on the right stick,
Okay.
the gun looks up and stuff like that. Way.
Yeah.
So there's like all those little things where I know for a fact that once like I am like, okay, here's a gamepad, like people are gonna be like, yeah, I want to be able to change this to this and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there might be some things where like hopefully some of that stuff can be a little bit easy to put in. Maybe it's not, and maybe I'm just like that's gonna be like a trade off when it comes to this convention to be
Yeah.
like, yeah, like this doesn't work out like that
I'll
way
still be
right now,
prepared
kind of
to
thing.
answer that either
Yeah, yeah.
way. So.
And so yeah, it'll be. So I think one thing that I would like to talk about in this episode, I know we're like past 20 minutes and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
and so just some quick like, let's just try to like talk about and determine what should be like the takeaway from DreamHack this year? Just because I know the another huge difference between where I'm at now and 2019 and 2018 was that 2018 2019 I was like 27, no, like 2018 I was 26,
Mhm.
so I was like pretty early slash like early mid into my like software engineering career, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that was like I'm trying to build something impressive, something I think is cool but also impressive, so that way I could you know like basically like get like a cool like VR job like out of that kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
And now I'm like slightly on the other side of being like, you know what? I can just build my own thing that I think is just impressive and cool, like just because I think it's impressive and cool, not because
Hmm.
I think other people will find it impressive and cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think so. Yeah. So now it's like my whole mentality going into this event this year is like way different because I'm not really trying to kind of like yeah, I mean we talked about like showing myself off as like a cool like as a developer and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
But I think like my takeaway from this event is I want to see if there is a place where this game can like build up like a following, right? I
Hmm.
want to meet people that will help with you know kind of get the ball rolling on that, and so that also kind of means like meeting up with influencers too, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
like seeing like who would be interested in playing this game, right? But yeah. So like, I think with that, one of the toughest things that I found with DreamHack is just following up with people afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, and like there's definitely some people that have like been like, oh yeah, Maritime Arena is really cool. I'd like to help out and stuff like that. And then I just like, for the life of me, cannot email people
Yeah.
afterwards.
Well, I think the big difference is that before you were like the DreamHack and these other conventions were like the big thing for you, and you like did all this work to be able to show the game, and then you felt burned out, I think, afterwards, and then would like, oh, I'm taking like a break from the game after this, when
Yeah,
really it's like actually that should be the stepping stone into doing
yeah.
stuff like
Now this is
the
like
big
a
work is
like
actually like the 2 weeks after, right?
yeah,
And so I'm hoping that it's going to be different this time, because now you don't have a day job,
yeah,
like you can actually focus, and like, yes, maybe you're going to be a little bit burned out because you're going to be like probably rushing to make sure the game is in the best spot over the next month and a half for
yeah,
this convention. But also, like, those two couple weeks after, like, that's going to be probably the most important part for this game, whether it's going to take off on itself, essentially.
yeah,
So I think that's just, you have to just be ready that that's really the start of your sprint.
yeah, yeah,
Like the dream hack is like the start of your sprint if you're thinking agile, whatever.
yeah,
Um, and I think you just have to, and I think it's going to be difficult because I think this is the thing. You're good at having your engineer hat on, your software developer hat
yeah,
on, your coder hat on. You know what I mean? Like, you know how to do all those things. You do it every day, so you
yeah,
get good at it. Obviously, you're gonna have to put on your like salesman hat, right?
yeah.
And just kind of like doing that, I think, is very different. But and it's probably going to be tiring. But I think that's just going to be something you're going to have to really
Like
build
really
up, like
just
make sure you're really ready for, because it's going to happen. You're going to need to like make all these connections, and then you're going to have to do a bunch of follow up too.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think as long as whether things work out is a different question, right? Or a
yeah,
different whatever. But I think if you're just ready to kind of be on the ball for it, I think
yeah,
we'll see what
yeah. So
happens.
like do everything I can. It's still, like this. The time to sprint is like actually going to be right after DreamHack, basically, right?
Yeah,
Not beforehand. So it's like 2 months, but kind of like marathon pace kind of thing. Right?
yeah,
It's like yeah, like and we definitely know that DreamHack it is a huge weekend. It takes a huge like amount of energy just to get all that stuff done, kind of
yeah.
thing, right? But yeah, like yeah, the real work is going to be like basically directly after that kind of thing. So I will say, good thing that Thanksgiving is also that month too,
Yeah,
because that will be like actually like a pretty good natural like break point kind of thing.
yeah. All right. Well, feeling good.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
awesome. No, this was a awesome episode. Thank you everybody for coming online and stuff and listening to this. And yeah, we'll have some cool updates for 11th Hour Hero, especially as we start coming up to DreamHack Atlanta 2025 and stuff. I still don't even have a Steam page up for this game, and I feel like that's got to be like the
We'll get
act-
that up before DreamHack.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I gotta get that up like well before DreamHack kind of thing. Like that should like that'll be like a cool announcement to have too. It's just like yeah, just come on here wish list and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this has been another episode of the 11th Hour Hero podcast. Thank you everybody, and have a great weekend.
All right. See you guys. Thanks for tuning in.